Welcome back to another episode of The Hard Truth. And the hard truth is that hard truth that the successful have accepted and the cowards, those cows running away from the storm, they refuse to accept and their life continues to be in turmoil. You know, I've had a lot of awesome episodes of this so far since we've launched. I've had members on here who have had amazing transformations. I've had employees on here who just literally make Soldier Fit what it is. I've had influencers on here and people that have, a ton of social media following and people that I know are successful in business. This is a special episode for me because this is the first time I've had one of my mentors on the thing. And whether Mike understands it or doesn't understand it, in a weird way, I think Mike is kind of like my business partner in that I'm not totally sure if Mike and I would run in the same crowd. I think there's a lot of differences between kind of the way we speak, the way we talk, the way we do things. And honestly, of all those differences, there are things that I wish I was a better man in when I look at Mike. I wish I had sometimes the ability to break things down the way that he does. I wish I had the ability to really step into any room that he's in. And even though a lot of those rooms, Mike's going to be one of the smartest guys in the room, he has a way that elevates everybody else around them so they don't feel dumb and they feel like they have a voice. And so I say I wish it is. These are places that I'm not at yet. I'm working to get there, and I work there under the tutelage of Mike Arce. He is the CEO and founder of Loud Rumor. And I'm going to say this, the next part, I mean this as a complete compliment. I hope it comes across as such. He is, in my opinion, the person that isn't world known that should be world known. You're an absolute undercover gem, and everybody that's around you is better because of you. You've done so much for me and my team, Mike. I want to lead off by saying thank you very much. And it really meant a lot to me that you took time to jump on the podcast.
You know, first off, thank you for that intro. That was really, really kind of you and to say those things. And I learned a lot from you too, Danny, and Dave as well. And it's funny what you said at the end there, because there was actually a conversation I had with somebody that is pretty well known. And it was about that particular thing with how I want to be known. And I said, well, look, if there was a guy that I could be, and there's two guys, say first guy walks into the sandwich shop and he's got a guy following him with a camera and he's there talking to people. He's got this show because he's got the camera on him and he's dropping all this amazing advice and people are coming up to him and they're asking him for autographs. Would I want to be that guy, or would I want to be the guy that's actually even more successful than that guy that's sitting down at the table eating the sandwich and everyone's leaving alone because they don't even know who he is? I kind of like the second guy. So obviously I do believe in educational marketing. And so I do put out a lot of content in order to, help people before I ask them for any type of investment, because I want them to believe that I can make a difference. And so I like to help people for free. And a lot of people we have helped for free before they ever gave us a penny. And I feel like that's been a good form of marketing for us. And I'll continue to do it at that level.
One thing that I really want to delve in, I want to make sure that we get an opportunity for you to explain what is Loud Rumor exactly, the genesis of it. But as you're doing that, can you take us to, can you summarize, or not summarize, but at the end of it, can you touch on this? Because I think you've done something that I would argue 99.9% of businesses would never have done. And in the time that I've been with Loud Rumor, I've seen it happen, is that you were, by everything I can see on the outside, you were successful as a marketing company. You were successful. You had 2,500 studios or more in the stable. But then when COVID hit, you got, and Lord knows I hate the word pivot. I don't, it's like my most hated word ever after COVID, but you guys morphed. You became so much more than a marketing company. And, I was literally on one of our coaching calls with one of the groups that I help facilitate. And the guy was like, I just thought I was getting marketing. And next thing I know, I'm on a performance coach and I'm seeing all these things that I didn't know. So Please tell us the story about how Loud Rumor got here, but please end with how did you have, honestly, the testicular fortitude to at least to me, feels like a 180 from where you guys were when I first started with you.
First off, I'm stealing testicular fortitude. That's mine now. I'm taking that. So for everyone that's listening, Loud Rumor does. We're an organization that helps fitness studios and gyms around the world grow, and we help them get more members, more money, and more minutes. So more time in your day. And we do it through two different main ways right now, but we're adding three really incredible things over the next year. And the first way is marketing. So we do help them with their marketing, and I do say marketing, not digital lead gen, because there is a difference. And I think a lot of agencies call themselves marketing agencies, but they're really just digital lead generation companies. They just get you leads on Facebook or Instagram. We like to believe that we help you understand marketing at a higher level and look at different angles and find opportunities. Even if you shut ads off on Facebook or Instagram, you'd still grow because you have 1,000 ways to market. So marketing. And then the other way is through mastermind. Nobody wants their kids hanging around knuckleheads. Everyone wants their kids hanging around good kids that do good things. And why? Because we know how humans are. We're a product of our environment. If we think that changes when we're older, it doesn't. I mean, just hang around somebody that says dude all the time and you'll start saying dude. That's just the way it is. I remember one time I moved into a house with a couple people that just partied. I was like 19, 20 years old. It was a party house. And yes, I started doing all the party things, right? Everything that a partier would do, I did. Waking up late, going to bed late, getting fired from jobs, drinking and all the stuff, right? And coincidentally, a couple years later, I happened to move into a house with two personal trainers, and I got in the best shape of my life. And so I think you are a product of your environment. I think habits create habits, and like habits especially. And so we wanted to create a network of gym owners that are really freaking hungry to be the best. And we changed our slogan to where the best gyms go to grow. So with that mastermind piece, we definitely have the community and we have the coaching aside from it as well. We have the portal where there's a lot of learning. And then we've got some really, really cool stuff in the works that we haven't even shared with you yet, but we'll be talking about at GSDCon, which is our big conference we do every quarter. And so this next one, we're going to be talking about that. So that's what Loud Rumor essentially is. We help gym owners in a way that they probably didn't even think was available to them. And the average gym in our program last year grew by 89.6% within their first year of being with us. Now, how did we get there? I was in the fitness industry for about a decade prior to, me being 26, 27 years old. Yeah, about that, 27 years old, 28 years old. I've always been into fitness. I love it. And I was in martial arts, and that's kind of how I got into it. I was underweight for my, age, and I wanted to learn how to put on muscle, and I couldn't afford a trainer, so I just figured I'd become one. Know what they know, and I don't need to pay one. Well, obviously, there's accountability and all that stuff too. You need it, but did that for about a decade. Built a business within the industry, did pretty well. Ended up finding out I was going to become a dad, and wanted to be a really good dad, and the hours at the time, I was a very uneducated business person at that age. And so the bulk of my business was between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. and then between 3:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. That was where the bulk of my best business was. And I was a very blessed person. I had a great dad growing up. I know that's not the most common thing, but I had a great, great dad, very involved. I saw him in the morning before school. I played basketball with him when I got home from school. We had dinner every night at the table. We watched Knick games every night together. He was always home. He worked from home, so I always saw him. I wanted that for my son, and I believed at the time that you couldn't do it in our industry because of the hours. I didn't think about hiring people. I mean, I had 3 people working underneath me, but they were just doing what I was doing in different spots. Built other companies, or actually got other jobs first. Then I built a company, was more of a web design company. And then we started doing marketing because everybody that we built a website for said, how do we get traffic? And then that led to, how do we grow this thing even greater? And then I had a mentor tell me, it's better to be a jack of all trades than a king of one. And so we niched down to just gyms because that was my industry. I understood it very well. And from that point, we 10x'd in 1 year what we weren't able to do in the previous six. And we just kept going that route. And little by little, we kept adding. And the mission is always the same. The vision and the mission never change. It's to help gym owners get more members, more money, more minutes, and it's to help gym owners really shape the business side of the fitness industry. That's the mission and that's the vision, and that never changes. So everything that you see us adding, Danny, or doing differently, those are all because we believed at that moment that helps accomplish the mission greater and faster.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to shift a little bit because there's so many. I have this conversation with business owners all the time, and actually, prior to coming to Loud Rumor, this was something that I just pissed me right off. Right, I always hated it, and I know so many other business owners, not just in the fitness industry, but across the board. One of the most difficult things about marketing is people don't really understand what it is. I mean, even there, you said like most people tell you they're a marketing company, but they're really just a digital ad company. And then you see some of these companies come in and they have this grandiose idea of like a Coca-Cola branding commercial that is going to cost thousands of dollars that the small business owner doesn't have. But hey, maybe they're a great salesperson. Maybe they're thinking about marketing. They're like, well, this makes sense. And then they spend all this money, but they actually don't even know how to capitalize on it, which makes them hate marketing even more, which again, we've had this conversation, like the last thing you should shut off before you close your business for good is your marketing. Like that's your pipeline. So for people that are, maybe they're new to business, hell, maybe they've been in business for a long time. We've had this conversation. What is like the difference between marketing and digital ads and branding, and what should they be thinking and looking for if they're trying to find somebody like you?
Well, whether they're looking for someone like me or they're just wanting to be great at marketing, definitely understanding what marketing is and what it is and how big the world actually is. And when you understand how big the world is, it actually gets simpler, not more complex, because now you have options and you don't feel like you have to be the best at this one or two thing that you thought it was. You can pick. Marketing for the small business owner should be significantly simpler. And it shouldn't be more expensive. It should be like very cost effective. And, bigger companies, SaaS companies, they've really got a hard mountain to climb. When you want to build a software company, that's a lot of work. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of money thrown at the people that you're competing with. So it's tough. Okay. So let's go to the fitness world because we all understand this. If somebody says, I hate fitness, instead of I hate marketing, I hate fitness, or I don't know fitness, and the only thing they've ever done is walk on the treadmill, they don't even know fitness. They kind of did fitness. They did a thing that would be under the category of fitness, but to lump everything in and say, I used to walk in the treadmill. I did that for 2 months. Nothing really changed. And then for you to put that whole one activity and say, I've done fitness. It didn't work for me, or it doesn't work, or treadmills don't work. They suck. That's just ignorant. And ignorance is different than stupid, right? Ignorant just means unknowing. I don't know. And that's okay. We're all ignorant in more things than we are not ignorant in. I'm more ignorant in many more things that I'm not ignorant in, just based on the vast amount of things that are in the universe, right? So now cardio is equivalent to running Facebook ads, right? The treadmill is like Facebook ads, right? Like if you stop using a treadmill, shit stops. If you stop running Facebook ads, it stops. And there's so much more to it. How could you do cardio differently? Could you do it in the morning? Could you do it fasted? Interval training with it, after a workout, before a workout? Like there's so many ways to do the same thing with Facebook ads, not just one thing. And then you don't even need to do cardio in order to be successful in fitness. Just like you don't even need to do the treadmill. You don't even need to do the treadmill just to be successful in fitness. Just like you don't need to do Facebook ads to be successful in business. It's just a tool. And when people think marketing, they're thinking like doing some sort of activity that will prompt a response that gets people to opt in, give information, call, take some sort of action to show interest. That's what they think it is. But marketing is so it's the biggest department in the company. And it's the one most business owners delegate first and do least in. But it's the biggest department in the company. Biggest meaning like most responsibility lies in this department. First and foremost, it's the product. Elon Musk blew up Tesla, has not done traditional advertising, not one penny has gone into traditional advertising. Oh, he's done marketing. Have you heard that the car farts? Did you know you can make the car fart on demand, Danny?
No.
Oh, not only can you make it fart on demand, Danny, but I can, whatever seat you're in, I can make it fart from your seat. So it sounds like you farted. Yeah. If you say open butthole, the actual chamber opens in the back. That's where you plug in to start putting in the electricity, right? You can make it dance. I have a Tesla Model X, and you can make it go to music, and the wings go up and down, and the doors open and close, and it goes to an orchestra type crazy intense song.
Sure.
I woke up in the morning one day, and I got an update on my screen on the Tesla, and it said, "We've updated your car over the air. Congratulations, your car can now do the 0 to 60 1 second faster." Danny, I got in the car and it went faster. Like I felt the jolt. Danny, when there was the hurricane happening in Florida, over air, Elon Musk gave everyone with a Tesla in Florida 100 extra miles of charge over air so they can get safely out of Florida.
No shit.
He priced the first Model Y $69,420. That was the first price. $69,420. Two very provocative alerting. Like our brains are wired to hear those numbers, right? He does stuff like that. Little things like the door handles opening. Now, a lot of people listening going, these are all crazy. That's marketing. Marketing is not necessarily running an ad and hoping for a response. Everybody that just heard everything I said, some of them heard that already. Some of them didn't hear that already. But it's marketing. I'm talking about it. Getting the product right is so important. In fact, in his newest book, he made a big fuss because they unloaded these, this nice car, a very nice car. It was a sports car. He wanted to do a sports car first. See, he thought Prius did it wrong. He goes, I don't want to do like what Prius did or what Kia did. Kia came out and they came out with a really affordable car. And then they wanted to start adding some really nice cars to their line. No matter what, even if they unload a Ferrari, it's a Kia. You can't get it. It's a Kia.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a Kia. He unloaded a sports car that goes 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds first. And then he added a $25,000, $30,000 option later on, because now I want a Tesla. I got a Tesla for $30,000. He went the other way. That's pricing strategy. That's product launch. How do we do this correctly? He wanted to show that you couldn't break the windows of the Cybertruck. He threw a steel ball at the window and the window broke on TV, national streaming. Everyone saw it. Everyone was talking about how this bulletproof car wasn't bulletproof yet.
But then he just twisted, he ran with what he had.
Yet.
Yeah.
Which means the story that he's building a bulletproof car is out.
Yeah.
See, I think the easiest way to get news to spread is to show the fuck up. Yeah. Because people are going to want to
blast. To your point, though, like the niche down, like you say, well, some people are going to hear this and it doesn't matter to them, but there's somebody's like, hold up, the fucking car can dance, or it can fart, or I can tell it to open the butthole, and that's where it plugs in. Like, to your point, like the 69, the 420, like it doesn't matter if everybody likes it. The only thing that matters is, does his people like it that want to buy it, right? Yeah. Because there's some people that are never going to buy a Tesla no matter what. But then there's those other people, just like with Apple, where it doesn't matter. All we did was upgrade a pixel in the phone, and I'm going to stand in line to get it. I mean, that's 100%. One of the things that you taught was like, listen, how do I, it just always sticks to me is like, who's the easiest person to sell to? Somebody that's already bought from you. And then every time they buy from you, they're recommitting to your brand. And those are like the little things, and they're little things, but they're big things that when you
Mhm.
first start in business, you know, you don't see that, you don't think like that. And I think that kind of goes to the idea of the FIFO, which is, you know, when you look at the stat, 50% of businesses go out of business in 5 years.
Mhm.
90% of businesses go out in 10 years. What is it that you think that 10% is doing different? Why do you think they make it?
Probably around the same percentage of people that succeed with fitness. Are you doing the right things right? Like at the end of the day, I mean, obviously there's some businesses that are destined to fail. Just like
Yeah.
there are some people that are destined to never be extremely fit, right? If you've got every injury in the book, every disease you can have, like you're probably not, like this body is not going to be an athlete, right? That's
Yeah.
just not the way it works. Doesn't mean you don't do your best you can with it, but it's the same thing with business. Some businesses don't have a tremendous amount of potential. If you only want to serve a very, very niche market in a very rural area, like, I mean, you go to Prescott and you open up something that's like for pregnant women only, and you're going to have like what, 112 customer people that you can sell to, right? So,
Yeah.
not a really good business model. But outside of that, of the ones that have a good business model, I mean, how many people do you see in the gym? Not your gym, Danny, but like big box gyms. I see the same people. They look the same.
Yeah.
They're still 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight. I see them in there all the time. They're in there every day. How are you still 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight? Because at the end of the day, what are you doing when you're not here? And what are you doing when you're here? Like all the things. So there's a combination of things that have to be done right. Now, how does a person know those things? They get with people that know it. They move in with people like I did, or they get coaches, they get trainers, or they dive in, they learn, they start reading, and the next thing you know, they start doing the right things right. With business, I think it depends on the business model that you're in, but like in fitness, for example, as a gym, it really always starts with marketing. It does start with that. Like, what is the product that we have? That's product. That's a big part of marketing. From here, who do we want this to sell? Who are we looking to sell it to? Now you could say, is it the chicken or the egg? Do we start with who do we want to help, and then what's the product we need to build, or here's a product we got, and who do we sell it to? I personally think, it's the former, right? Like this is who we're looking to help, and once you're looking to help that person, if that's your driving force is to help this person, not to find random people that will want this thing. It's harder to fail and it's easier to come up with really good ideas. No parent is really born with a manual. But because we love our kids so much and we just want them to be happy, we're thinking about them all day. We're thinking about, I don't know about you, Danny, but I'm driving in the car and if I know my son's going through something, I'm thinking about what story am I going to tell him to help him feel normal about the situation that he's in so he can connect with me and I can give him advice that doesn't come from a dad, but it comes from another human being that's been down this path. I'm thinking about him right now. My daughter says she's going over a sleepover, right, with her friend's house. And I'm thinking of all the things I want to tell her beforehand. And right. So I'm always thinking about my kids when it comes to my personal life. I'm always thinking about my customer when it comes to my business life. And I'm not going to start a tradition at my house and say, now, how do I get my family into it? I'm going to say, what's my family into and how do we create a tradition around it? It's the same thing with work. I'm not going to say, I'm going to create a product. Now, how do I get my customers to want it? I'm going to say, what are my customers already wanting to do and they're doing it? And how do I make it better for them? How do I package it up and just make this perfect? So I think that's something that people lose sight of once they start their business. Then they just start copying competitors that either A, aren't thinking about their customer, or B, have a different customer. And so where do you go from there? What are you even building at that point? I don't know what my competitors are technically doing. I know maybe that they want to help. That's great. I pay attention to some things, but at the end of the day, what you're working on doesn't matter. I actually prefer you're copying me. That's my best case scenario to me is when a strong person's copying me. My team asked me the other day, they're like, why? Because they brought that up. They're like, why would you want someone to copy you? And I said, because if they're copying on me, I already know what they're working on. It's what I finished. They're not working on the thing I'm working on. Keep them distracted with what I'm leaving behind. I'm working on the next thing. Keep them busy.
That's an awesome way to think of it. Why do you think though that it's? I mean, everything you just said, you can make the argument that that should be intuitive. Um, but full transparency. Like if when I started Soldier Fit with Dave, like there was zero thought process in my brain that 75% of our clientele would be middle-aged females. Like that was not even that wasn't even on the radar. You know what I'm saying? That just happened. And in a lot of ways, we just lucked through. Because I don't have I couldn't write a business plan if you put a gun to my head right now. I've been good at being a catalyst for things and starting things and getting things up and going, but it never like ever, I never distilled it down and like sat down and go, okay, who is my avatar, whatever. And when talking to a lot of other businesses, they don't do it either. So why is it that why do you think that disconnect happens? Why do you think people have, well, I should start this business, but so many of us don't start with who the customer is?
Well, it's the same thing as like with fitness, same thing. I'm going to keep going to the parallel because I think the parallels are incredible. I mean, I would say the most important thing for fitness is food, like what you put in your body, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're eating burgers and pizza and you're, drinking alcohol and you're smoking cigarettes and you're not hydrating yourself and then you go to, I don't care what you do in the gym. What's the max potential?
Yeah.
You're not going to even, it's worthless. But why do so many people not start with food? Why do so many people think that they're working out so they can eat what they want? And don't get me wrong, it's okay to work out so that you can be more flexible with your diet. I think that's great, but it starts with that. You don't start 60 pounds overweight and say, I'm going to work out to lose and eat what I want. No, you want to get to where you want to go first. And then once you're there, then you can maintain. And well, the same thing with business. I just don't think people know. I think it's just ignorance. And I think ignorance just, that goes away with being around people that are doing it and making a decision to learn it. And it takes time. I think I was in business 6-7 years before I started looking at my customer avatar and taking it seriously. And I heard about it a few times. I just didn't think it was that important.
One of the things I think that's great about what you do with GSDCon, and we talk about this all the time, it's not that you even need to be so much that you need to be taught as often as you need to be reminded.
Yeah.
And we see this. I mean, I've experienced this personally in the business. Like you go to the GSDCon, you're like, oh, shit, why do we need to get back to doing this? We're not doing this enough. Where did the idea for let's do a fitness conference? And I remember seeing the first one. I actually didn't go to the first one because for a couple of our franchises had found you guys and went to it. And I remember seeing the video of you coming out in the top hat and and doing the Barnum and Bailey show and the whole nine yards. So where did the idea for you to do these? Because they've grown exponentially, and I honestly think they've become arguably one of the best, if not the best offerings that Loud Rumor puts on.
Yeah, it's actually, so we interview our top 25 clients, or not our top, but we interview top 25 clients, meaning, they're in the category of these are 25 people we wish we could multiply over and over again. And last year we did it Q1. We're going to do it again in about 2-3 weeks here. And we asked everyone the same 21 questions. And one of the questions was just that: what is the most valuable part of being in our program? And 25 out of 25 said GSDCon. So it's definitely seen as the most valuable across the board by most of our members. And the one that you thought was the first one, a lot of people think that's our first one. That was actually our second.
Oh, really?
One. Yeah, a lot of people think it was our first because we were like putting it out there in videos, and it's more memorable with like images of what you saw, right? The top hat and all that. But we had one right before that. Matt was actually that. I didn't even know who Matt Kafora was. He was a guest there. I didn't even know who he was. I know you know Matt. For everybody listening, he's our COO now. But so where that came from, I remember I had a client, and at the time I was kind of doing account management at Loud Rumor as well. So I was like, I had a few clients that I wanted to hang on to because I felt like they were really, really good, like in terms of they really fit the avatar well. And I wanted to be close to them so that I can continue building on the product early. So I was their account manager early on. And this one guy, he had a challenge, and I gave him advice on what to do. It was around nutrition, and he didn't trust the advice. I said, let me connect you with a client of mine who took the advice, and it worked really well. He took the advice of the client, got on the phone with him, took the advice, and it worked really well. And that's where I said, we need to connect people more because they're going to, it's a reason to believe. They need to see it. Some people can't trust. Some people don't have faith like that. Some people need to like know it's more possible than just hearing it randomly. And so from there, I was like, I want to have a conference. I want to have an event, and I want to invite people to it, and I want it to get bigger. And I want the same people going every quarter as often as possible because I want these guys to build relationships with each other. The vision of it was, it's not the event, it's the spark that the event creates.
Yeah.
I'm hoping in 10 years from now, people are groomsmen and bridesmaids at people's weddings from people that they've met at these events. They're godfathers of children. Like that's just the way it
Yeah.
works. There's business partnerships that are made within this community. So I think it's going to get bigger and better. We're technically only like 2.5 years really in doing it. It seems like a lot longer because we have them so
Yeah.
often. We do them every quarter, but it's really only 2.5 years. But I think in about 10 years, I mean, it's going to be, people won't imagine their life without it. It's such a big part of their life.
Yeah. So let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to, even though I don't like to talk about it, let's go back to COVID. Because again, this really does it's rule 6 problems are permanent and rule 10 FIFO. And again, I really do credit I credit what you guys did because we had taken steps at Soldier Fit, like we had video content up the very next day. But what you guys did in that moment in time, I think it defined leadership. I mean, for you guys to have turned around, had built out the studio options, virtual studio options, which it's helped so many of us that didn't have the wherewithal to do it or didn't have the resources to do it. And for you guys to have stacked all that up and to rallied around the things like the power calls. And again, to me, I really do see, maybe I'm the only one, but I really do see Loud Rumor as pre-COVID, post-COVID. That's always been the way that I looked at it, where I really believe you guys morphed after COVID into a genuine coaching, mentoring company, whereas before I would have looked at you guys as simply a digital marketing agency. How did you pull that off? Because you had to be scared shitless. Like I just can't believe there's a way that you weren't scared. I mean, you were making company was doing really, really well. And to me, that was a perfect example of I could be here and the entire bottom could have fallen out and I could have lost everything. And you could have very easily been one of those guys. Oh man, the pandemic killed us. It put us out of business. It was all, and instead, you guys have only grown since. So what was it like navigating through it? How did you get through it? How did you balance the home life and probably keeping your wife from getting scared and frightened too, and still being a dad and taking care of this all the 2,000 plus customers? Like, how did you manage it?
So I've reflected on this quite a bit. And you may not believe, because it sounds not believable. You may not believe this, but I wasn't scared at all. Um, I was worried for others more than myself. I was lucky. About a month prior to that, like February of 2020, I had my cousin over. My cousin's my age, short of 2 months. I'm 2 months older than her. So we grew up together. We actually went to kindergarten together and college together, but nothing in between. so she knows me very well. We're good friends. I saw her yesterday. And she came over to my house about a month prior to COVID. And we were talking because, I have a pretty decent house and I have decent trips that I take with my family. And she knows I do well. And she asked me, she's like, you ever afraid that something might happen and you might lose it all? I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, that you could like lose everything. They ever worry about that? Like you hear that people that are doing really well and all of a sudden it's like something happens and you lose it all. And I got so lucky that she asked me that question because I didn't have to think about it when it happened a month later. I thought about it then and I said, no, I'm fine. And she's like, are you sure? I was like, listen, my kids be healthy. I'm healthy. At the end of the day, I don't own any of this stuff anyway. This isn't mine. I'm renting it. It doesn't belong to me. This belongs to me. My face, my skin, my heart, my hands. My kids don't even belong to me. They're not mine. I mean, you could say they're mine, but they're theirs. They're themselves. I'm myself. I'm allowed to be as a role of a leader and their father in their life, and I'll do everything I can to be great, but they're not mine. They're theirs, and I'm mine. And so I don't feel attached to a lot of things in my life that I think the average person gets attached to. Um, when my son came home one day and I found out he got bullied, I kind of talked to him about how I want him to respond the next time. He came back the next day, and it was a relaxed, laid back response. Right, came back the next day with holes in his back of his pants because someone kicked him. He got bullied again, and so I said, "Cool." Got on my laptop, researched a good jiu-jitsu school near us. Within a half hour, we were at the school and he was buying a membership and we were getting him the support he needs. Never got bullied again. Just having that. I say that to you because my job is not to go there and kick that little boy's ass that was messing with my son. My job is not to say good luck. My job, as I see as my father, is to put him in the position to get through it. That's my job. And my job, disconnected from money, my job is not to be rich. My job is not to be successful. My job is to help you guys get more members, more money, more minutes. That's my job. It's the only role I have in your life. I mean, yours, we're closer now, but when you sign up with me. And so when this happened, there was a job to be done and I had to do a job. And I wasn't thinking about my money. I wasn't thinking about I could lose everything that I technically don't even have. It's just here for right now for me. Um, I don't give a shit. If I'd have found out I had to close down Loud Rumor and I lost it all, I probably would have still put out a shitload of blog posts or YouTube posts or whatever to help you guys along the way. Because it's just like if my son ran away from home, I'd still find a way to send him postcards and guide him as much as he would listen. So uh, I didn't worry. I wasn't scared. I was worried other people's were scared and might quit when they probably shouldn't have. But I was fine. My wife was fine. She knew I was fine. Uh, we did our job.
How did you get to that point? Because that's a beautiful, beautiful worldview.
Every day I'm reading
Daily
shit like
thought.
this. Well, I don't go a day where I don't read in both of these books, Stoicism and Buddhism. Now, I'm not a Buddhist. I aim to be a Stoic, but I'm not a Buddhist. I love learning from all different things. All different religions have really good takeaways, but I think both are talk a lot about not being attached, and that all suffering leads to attachment. There's no suffering where there's no attachment. You know, and that could be attachment even to an identity that you have. You might think that you have to be this person, but you don't. You don't have to be anything. If all of a sudden I felt like tomorrow I wanted to be something else for when I grow up, I'll do that. I won't feel attached. I won't feel like, oh, but I built this. I don't give a shit. It's what I want to do right now. This is where I'm happy. And I'll keep doing it as long as it fulfills me and my family. But
How long do you think it took you to get to that point?
few fucking years. So it started with my wife. My wife and I were arguing quite a bit. And I noticed that it was a trend with me mainly because I started to notice that she didn't argue with as many people as I did outside, right? So like she got along with a lot of people and I was really good at first, but then over time I would wear people down and then people weren't liking me anymore. And so I you know, my wife actually wanted to go see counseling for the two of us. And we went to a session and it was so slow and painful. I did my part. I did what I had to do. I didn't, I cared about the goal. but I couldn't stand it. Danny, you got to understand everyone's brain is different. Everyone works differently. And I'm not saying I'm smarter or dumber than anybody else. I'm different. Everyone's different. It's about how are you smart, not how smart are you. And I don't learn well like that. If I just had a business coach, that's it. I don't learn well like that. If I had a piano teacher and that's it, I don't learn well like that. I like the coach where every week you meet with me, I'm significantly better than when you saw me last week because I just learned a shit ton of what you were wanting to teach me last week. So, piano, I learned the piano on my own, period. I learned how to play really good symphony shit on my own, and then I hired a teacher. Chess, I learned how to play on my own and get to a good level on my own. Then I hired a teacher. Guitar, same thing. Italian, I hired a coach after I was pretty damn fluent. Then I hired a coach. Now, I could have hired a coach early on. It wouldn't have hurt. But I but when I had to go to counseling with my wife, I felt like I didn't put any work in first. I just went to this thing and I'm hoping she fucking has an answer. I didn't put any work in. I didn't read anything. I didn't study anything. I didn't watch any trainings or podcasts or none of that. And so then I started researching and I started asking. Then, like Kobe Bryant said, once you know what you want, the world becomes your library. Then you start hearing about books that you can't keep up to read. You can't read them all. And Stoicism and Buddhism stood out as two really, really incredible ways of thinking about life. And I would say the first year, I just aspired to think like that. And I failed 99% of the time. Second year, I failed 60, 70% of the time. Right now, I'm probably at around 20% of the time I fail. I would say like it's reactionary. Like every once in a while, the old me will come out. And it's funny. It's usually when I'm around old people, meaning people I used to hang out with, like cousins or something like that. Because they're anchor. I think they anchor my personality sometimes. So I've got to break that. But yeah, it's a lot of daily, dude. Daily studying on it.
It's I just had recorded an episode with Chris Camnelli, and he talked about. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard his story and the things that he's went through to end up where he is now. But it delved into Rule 8, which you just hit on, which is you are who you run with. And we've seen that from the level up of everybody that's part of the Loud Rumor stable and the people that are reaching out to each other and getting help. A lot of people struggle with that, though. A lot of people struggle with either cutting people out of their life that need to be cut out of their life. But I'm going to ask you this because I asked Chris this, and I'd love your take on it too. I think the thing people struggle with the most, because so many people have imposter syndrome. So many people, even if they get a little bit of success at the gate, I know I've struggled with this at times. Like you just feel like somebody's going to figure out that you're not who you are, and maybe they're going to think you're a fraud or what have you. And so a lot of times I think when everybody's like, yo, get proximity is power and get around all these amazing people or whatever. But a lot of people are like, oh, but what am I going to say? They say to themselves, I'm not amazing yet. So how can I even get into the room? And how can I even make an impact so these people want to impart knowledge on me? They don't even feel like they should be in the room. Did you ever experience that at any point in time going through this process to Loud Rumor? And if so, how did you get over it? And if you didn't experience it, what tips would you offer for people to maybe not have to deal with it?
Yeah. Well, with the friends thing, as far as like, the old people and the new people and stuff like that, friends come and go. So do people at your company as well. So there's a really good quote I just heard. It was like some people are some are like some are for seasons, some are for reasons, and some are for a lifetime. And there's actually a really cool story that ties people to trees and says some people are like leaves. Have you heard this before? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
Some
one. Share it. It's a good one.
some people are like leaves. They come and go. They provide shade. They hang for a minute, but once the seasons come, they're out. They can't hang. Then some people are like branches, a little stronger. They'll be there through a few seasons, but when real storms kick in, they don't have what it takes to endure. And then some people are like roots. And you, cool thing is there's a lot more leaves and branches than there are roots, but you only need a few good roots, and the roots are there to hold you up no matter what happens. And they don't need to be seen, they don't need to be heard, but they're there. And they're there to provide you with the support and the nutrition, the stuff that you need in order to succeed and thrive through damn near anything. And so you only need a few really good roots in order to be successful in whatever you want to be and happy. Um, and then as far as the next question of like mentorship and finding mentors, yeah, I've dealt with imposter syndrome. I think everyone does, especially early on, because what happens is in the very beginning, like an 18-year-old knows everything, right? There's nothing you can teach an 18-year-old. They know it all. And then when they're 30, then they start realizing how dumb they were. And when they're 35, 40, they start realizing how smart their parents were, but also how human their parents were. You start developing a level of empathy for your parents in your 40s. And so um, I dealt with that. But then once I, started being around him, one mentor gave me really good advice because he saw me messing up and he knew that I was coachable, but I was messing up. And he said, I'm going to give you some advice on how to be a better mentee because you're fucking up right now. And I said, okay. He said, number one, stop telling me what you already know. There's no value. You can't learn and listen. You can't talk and listen at the same time. And you can't talk and learn at the same time. So stop telling me what you already know. Ask me what you like to know. The next thing, if I tell you something or give you advice, don't tell me that you've already done that or that it wouldn't work or any of that. Don't put anything negative around it. Because what you do is you start making me feel self conscious around my ability to help you and you shut me down. And now I don't want to say anything anymore just to not be valueless to your time and mine. So even if I give you advice, you say, yeah, we've done that before. Don't say that. Just say, how would you do it? Because maybe along the way, I'll explain in a way that you haven't thought of it. Or maybe you follow the jelly beans down the road and we get a different way. But at least you get me to continue. But don't shut me down. And last, reach out to me. Don't count on me to reach out to you. Reach out to me. Christmas, Thanksgiving, how you doing? And when you reach out, how are you doing? How's Danny doing? Right? It's important. So I do that. I don't do it as well as, I don't think anybody will ever do it as well as you wish you can because it's so hard to keep up with on a regular basis. But I know I do the first piece as well. There's so many times a mentor will give me advice and I've already done it and it doesn't work. Or I don't think they understand my model enough to where they're really giving me good advice at the moment. And I'll just go, huh, so how would you do that? Well, blah, blah, and then they start asking questions. So it gets them the
I think
fire.
that's your superpower. I really do. Like I think that is your um I think it's your superpower. It's something that like I am full honesty, like I struggle with it. I struggle with the way that you ask questions. And I'll never forget me and you having this conversation. I was like, well, listen, like I can get on stage and I can own the stage and I can do great and I can do awesome and everybody likes a great presentation. But then sometimes in these one-on-one conversations, I'm like, why am I not doing good there? Why am I not? It is a genuine desire to like, I'm trying to, but it's just not working. And you were like the first person to ever go with Danny. Like it's two different modalities. Like there's two different expectations, and you do such a good job of guiding. And I mean, I even, like I called you a couple of days ago. I was like, man, I need to fucking get better at this because I'm not good at it. And you do such a really good job of just asking a question that leads to another question that ends up letting the person solve it. How,
Yeah.
how did you get to that? And what tips do you have on that?
So that's the Socratic method from Socrates. He spoke in questions. Um, and it's allowing people to get there on their own. One of my mentors, Dave, he does that really, really well. He also, sometimes when he doesn't have a question, what he does, and I steal this from him as well, is he says, I don't know. And that gets me to talk. So, for example, like if you were to say, Mike, what do you think is the most important thing for me to work on, just based on everything you see? I don't know. It's a big question. I mean, obviously, you're thinking something already. What's your gut telling you? Right? I don't have to know the answer. I don't have to make believe I know the answer. I could just say I don't know. And me not knowing actually gives you confidence. Because if I knew that quickly something that you've been working on forever, how dumb do you feel? Right. So, but like by me saying, I don't know, your gut's telling you something, what do you think? And now whatever you say, we can work from there. If you were like, man, I just feel like I've got the wrong people in the wrong seats. Why do you say that? Well, because this person doesn't do this or this person do that. Well, how do you want them to be? I want them to be like this. Did you interview for that? No. Okay. So what do you think we need to do? We need to do that. Well, let's say you had the right people in the right seat already. Let's say they were already, you felt like they were great, couldn't be better. And let's say the business still wasn't moving forward. Why would that be? Now we are making sure there's not another constraint. There could be something else. Now we're fixing the thing that's not the most important thing. Then they might say, well, we're just definitely not getting enough leads in. How many leads you getting? We're getting 12 a month. Okay. So let's see, if we had 200 leads a month coming in with the same people, would we be moving forward? Right. So you don't always have to know the answer. You have to know the questions are actually really important. There's actually a quote around that where it says, it's not the answers, but the question where the real power lies. And so sometimes we have to, there's this thing that I did today with my team, and it was around us, the humans are being naturally biased. It was a leadership meeting that I had with my team, and Tanner, incredibly smart guy, especially 26. I mean, he's smart for 50, but he's smart for 26 for sure. And he came with a bunch of data. And in the data, he showed that businesses that are doing under 20,000 a month, when they come to us, they cancel at twice the rate that people that are doing over 20,000 in monthly recurring revenue when they come to us. So he said, I think we should really up our standard to only work with people doing 20,000. And I said, well, what are all the variables? And he started bringing up other variables like, well, if they came in and they were already in the red, but if they were in the black, right? So there were different things that came in. I said, well, what if you were to make an argument that we should keep them and just do something a little different? What would be your argument? And he just froze. I said, is that the first time you're thinking about that? He said, yeah. And I go, okay, we don't have to solve it now, but I want you to put the same amount of energy arguing with your argument. And then from there, decide on which one is conclusive. So you got to have, because sometimes what happens is we believe something so strongly, so quickly, that everything we start finding in our research is biased and supports our initial belief. And so now it's fucked. Now it's like the vegan that everything they can find every article in the world that supports veganism, and they somehow discredit or don't even remember the ones that say how it's bad or not good, right? Same thing with religion or gender or whatever. Like you can find anything to support your bias. So really, it's how do you play devil's advocate? Because the another good thing from I think this was either Socrates or Epictetus. I think it was Socrates, but he said the unexamined life is not worth living. And that's essentially stemming from that idea where it's better to have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. And I think a lot of people, they get real hung up on this is it, and they get the blackout. And it's like, okay, well, the second you feel that way, there needs to be a trigger. There's good a lot of people think triggers are bad, right? Like, oh, I'm triggered. No, that's okay. You could have bad triggers. You could have good triggers. The second I feel like I'm so bought in on something, that triggers me to go, fuck, well, hold on. What am I doing? And now I got to make an argument on the other side of this, right? Like, how is this wrong? If I was going to prove myself wrong, what are all the tools I'd use to make this wrong? Because what real scientists do is not about proving something right. It's about proving stuff wrong until you can't anymore. That's what science really is.
Well, it's kind of like that old quote I'll probably butcher it, but it goes, we question everything we know except that we really believe, and those we never question at all. right? Like
Yeah.
those core beliefs that, I think Jordan Peterson talks about this is like, and he uses red and blue, probably because of red and blue, but he's like, listen, like people are inherently born to either have to lean towards a conservative mindset or a liberal mindset. And prior to social media, that was cool because we all had to kind of come together and it balanced each other
Right.
out. But now in social media, we get pushed into these two separate echo chambers. And that's where we find ourselves in trouble, where we're just hearing the same thing over and over. Man, one thing I want to kind of wrap up with and um, give you an opportunity to talk about is Rule 9, because I think you exemplify this maybe better than anybody I know, which is what you did beats what you said. And you have had a consistent track record of success, and you've had a consistent track record of saying, hey, we're going to do this. I mean, shit, at the start of the episode, you're like, oh, we got some cool things you don't even know about coming down yet. And you've done a very, very good job of staying ahead of the curve. And not in a boisterous way. I think in a lot of ways, like, um, I think you're like like the opposite type leader that I am. I know, like I said before, there's a lot of ways I like to spread it. Like you're a lot, you're not an over the top personality. You're steady. If I were to put a word to Mike, I'd be like, the motherfucker is a rock. Like he's steady. He doesn't go up. He doesn't go down. He's steady. How do you manage that? But at the same time, like, all right, well, we're good here, but we need to continue to add these things on it. Like, what advice do you give people if they're like trying to fix that side of it, not be too up, not be too down, but just to be a steady rock? How do you control all that together?
Well, first, there's lots of different types of successful leaders. Elon Musk is not as steady. He has his ups and he has his downs. He has his flare ups. For example, like Elon Musk has been known to yell, curse, at his team. This is shit. This is shit. Like that's a famous quote. He says it a lot. This is shit. Um, Fire him, right? Like that's how he is. And then you have people like Jeff Bezos that don't explode as much. Warren Buffett, even less. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way to be. I think that was the case, and every basketball player would be the same position and same style, and there's lots of ways to be successful in a lot of things, parenting, everything. Um, One thing I do think is valuable is not necessarily being steady all the time, because I'm not. I have my highs and my lows. I think it's being I think it's when the stakes are the highest, that's when you're the most steady. I think that's when it's like, okay, calm down. I will usually flare up more on little shit. Like the fucking website has an error on it. That's little, right? No one's going bankrupt because of this typo. But I'm like, what the fuck is this? How are we? What's the system for this? Like, how are we not? And that's as loud as I'll get, right? But like, what the fuck is this? What is the system for this? Um, Now at home, same thing. Hey, you just walked right over the sock. You didn't see the sock. You walked over the sock. No one saw it. Somehow you didn't see the sock, right? But COVID hits. Hey, what are we doing next? My son gets bullied. Hey, let's go to laptop, right? So I think the heavier the waves, the more heavy the boat's got to be. Like that's it. The boat's light, it's over. But if there's no storm, it's a flat ice sheet of water. That boat can sway with some wind. Who gives a shit? Like it's not going to tip over with a little bit of volatility. It's more fun anyway. It's more fun
Yeah.
to have that energy and that stuff. You just don't see it as much, but backs. Yeah, we're joking around, and there's definitely anger sometimes, just different. But I think this to me, stoic is your ability to be steady. That's essentially what it is, because you reframe. I think a big problem that I used to have, and that was taught to me, and I think it's taught to a lot of people, and I think it's wrong, is these like hacks on how to do things. For example, like you'll hear people like, when you get mad, just like count backwards from 10. Count backwards from 10. That sounds already, I'm going to get more mad. Or like just breathe, put yourself in a, you know, a state, like whatever. Hey, that doesn't work. I don't believe that works. I'm going to say that second one instead of the first one because I don't study it enough. But what I've studied, the reason I don't think it works is all I think that does is just like pushes the shit in,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's all I think it does. I don't think counting backwards for 10 eliminated anything. I think it just pushed it down.
Yeah.
When I get my arguments with my wife, I used to do stuff like that. I would get in arguments with her and I'd be like, take a deep breath and just don't talk for 30 seconds. Just let her talk. Just let her talk. But the more she talked, the more shit I wanted to say. Like I had more stuff to interrupt. I was getting more mad. So what I believe works better is none of those hacks. It's completely reframing. So when I argue with my wife now and I see we're starting to get hot, that trigger comes in. And that trigger is this is the love of my life. This is my favorite people, my children, my favorite people's favorite person out of everyone in the world. This is their favorite person in the entire world. I want to be old with this person. We've done a lot of amazing things together. All this is happening in my brain in a matter of seconds now. And while she's arguing, it's incredible, Danny, as she's saying what she's saying, even if she's like this with her fist, I like love the shit out of her at that moment. Like I'm just like, damn. Because I know she's human and we're all here. And so now I'm not mad at her anymore. And I'm so reframed that everything changes. I'll feel myself all of a sudden just be like, hey, look, I don't want to argue with you. I'm sorry I even got to this level. And it's amazing because she'll be like, I don't want to argue either. Right. And I'll be like, I know. Listen. And I'll say it because I feel it so strong at that moment. I'll be like, look, I love you more than anything. So the goal is to have a great marriage. That's my goal. All action should lead to the goal. And I just don't think this is it. So how do I fix it? What can I do right now? And then it just works.
Yeah.
It's great. And that's how I am with my team and with customers. If you call me up upset about something that somebody did at the company, I don't see you as a customer that's mad. I see you as a guy, as a human being, someone's son, he's someone's daddy, he's someone's husband, he's someone's friend, he's someone's cousin. That's who this guy is. And he's like really upset right now and he doesn't know how to handle what's happening. And he's calling me is the best he can come up with right now. And so like, how do I deal with them? And all of a sudden I don't see you the same. The same thing with my people at my company. Like there's sometimes where I'm just like, I look at someone happened recently, a couple days ago. And I'm just like looking at him like this motherfucker. What is he even talking about? Like, God, I'm so mad, right? Because I feel like he's just wasting time. And then I just reframed and I go, dude, this is how he communicates. He's not you. He's him. You probably got him saying this motherfucker every once in a while, because he's probably seeing it on your side, how way you communicate. He's him. He's here for a reason. He's wanting to help. He's wanting to do his best. This is the best he's got right now. Listen to him. And it's crazy. As he's saying it, all of a sudden I feel like this crazy level of compassion. And I don't need to have a hack. I'm just like, So I think a lot of it, if becoming and I'm not a master yet, I think mastery is when like it happens before it happens. I still find myself in arguments with my wife and I need the trigger.
Yeah.
But aiming to be a master at reframing virtually everything you've got in your life. Gratitude is reframing. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time.
Well, like you said, I mean, it takes it, and actually the way you explained that, it takes it off you because it's not about you. Right. Yeah. I think a lot of times people think like, well, this customer's yelling at me. They're not yelling at you. They're yelling at their perception of a situation. Right. You just happen to be the one that's the vocal point that they're talking to. Hey, Mike, I appreciate everything you do for me. I appreciate everything you do for the company and for everybody that's part of Loud Rumor. With that being said, somebody's listening today, they want to find out more about you, they want to find out more about Loud Rumor, what's the best way for them to find you?
I would say if you go to YouTube and you type in Loud Rumor, probably find our YouTube channel right there. Loudrumor.com is our website. You can follow me on Instagram, Mike RC Live as well.
Awesome. Mike, I appreciate you taking time, especially in the evening over here. As always, guys, make sure if you get something out of today's episode, you hit that subscribe button, you share. Let's get this message going out there. Remember, the first step to the storm should always be your own. Keep living head down, horns up. Till next time, fam. Salute.